views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Thank you for joining us in the Bronx Annual Irish Heritage Month celebration. Give yourselves a nice round of applause. Come on, guys. Give yourselves a nice round of applause for attending the Bronx Annual Irish Heritage and Culture Month celebration. If you're a proud Irish person, you're happy to be here today. Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. is our host for today, and if I can have everyone's attention at this time, we're going to begin the program, and we want to give everyone respect. It is my honor to introduce the MC for this evening, Mr. Derek Woods, the Executive Director and founder of the Riverdale Children's Theater. The Riverdale Children's Theater was founded in 2010 by Derek and Becky Woods. Since then, it has evolved into a 501c3 nonprofit theater arts education program that serves families in the Bronx and Yonkers. RCT produces full-scale musical theater productions, offers music and dance programs, and distributes thousands of dollars in scholarships each year so that any child can have access to their high-quality arts program. Over 96% of their students are accepted into the competitive New York City performing arts high schools, and many of their students are going on to professional careers and attending some of the nation's top performing arts colleges and universities. The Riverdale Children's Theater has been cited in Backstage Magazine and by American Towns Media as one of the leading children's theater companies in the United States. Wow. An award-winning freelance producer in 2007, Derek was hailed by the Bronx Borough President Adolfo Carrion as one of the borough's leading Irish Americans. And the following year, he received an Emmy nomination for his documentary on Irish immigration, Memory Brings Us Back, Irish Stories of Farewells and Fortunes, which he produced for the Ashland Irish Center, thank you, in 2012. He was honored by the Bronx Community College Irish Heritage Committee for outstanding community service. And last, he served as Grand Marshal for the 2017 Bronx St. Patrick's Day Parade. He's here with us today. Please let's welcome Mr. Derek Woods.
Thank you, Sarah. And again, reading a much too long bio that you should have cut down for most of the Irish. So happy to welcome you to one of the greatest spots here in Woodlawn in the Bronx proper, the Rambling House, on behalf of the Borough President and his tremendous staff. And certainly we have so much to talk about in this very busy time of the year where we celebrate so many great Irish events and heritage and our culture. So, at this time, let us begin our tremendous celebration. And I would like to welcome to the room, and please welcome the FDNY Pipe and Drum Corps, along with the New York State Courts Ceremonial Unit. And while they get ready to come in, and someone's going to give me the high sign, I am happy to... that's the wonderful sounds that we know we are about to begin. There's nothing quite like the lilt of an Irish bagpipe. As long as you're not in the church listening to it, you're doing all right. The only time you're on here. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'd like to welcome a young woman who is a proud Bronxite and young from Yonkers. She has also established herself as one of the most amazing young performers in our midst. She is the recipient of the very prestigious Andrew Lloyd Webber Scholarship, and she's also one of 8 Bronx students that will be attending the Interlochen Academy in Michigan this summer. And she is a member of the Riverdale Children's Theater. Ladies and gentlemen, for our national anthem, please rise and welcome Miss Amara Barlow.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Amara. Now, of course, today as we celebrate our Irish culture, we would be remiss as we please stay standing as we sing the Irish national anthem. And the person who will sing that for us is none other than a gentleman's gentleman, Mr. Michael Fogarty, a proud man from Tipperary. He's presided at just about every Irish Borough Heritage celebration for the past 15 years. Mike Fogarty.
I'll sing you a song, a soldier song, with cheering, rousing chorus, impatient for the coming fight. And as we wait the morning light, here in the silence of the night, we will chant a soldier song. Sheena Fina fall, and off the Allegheny, wind or slow, 13 Ronigoon, them with Blaser, Shantir, Sinshar, Fasta, Niofa, Fantira, Fairtroll, and up a hymn to Barnabwell, the Ganner, Gil, Combos, no sail, laid in a strait, the Lorvik Novillair, Shaif Kani, Aronavin. Thank you. That sounded, the former president last year said he would sing the Gaelic for me, but cold feet.
applause for the wonderful FDNY Pipe and Drums Corps. Yep, and the New York State Port Ceremonial Unit, thank you so much for everything you do. And Michael and Amara, that was a beautiful job you did. That was incredible. You know, today is about sharing culture, and a beautiful part of every evening or at the end of the night, you'll actually, before the band or the bar finishes up, they actually sing the Irish national anthem. If you didn't know that, it's a tremendous, tremendous moment of patriotism, and something we should think about too here. But again, before we can truly continue, at this time I would like to bring to the podium Father Brendan Fitzgerald. Now, I will introduce Father in just a few words, just to say that in a very short time as the man who leads this flock here in Barnabas, he has endeared himself to this parish like no one has ever seen. I'm a born and bred Bronxite, and I've been a proud member of a few parishes, but to see how he leads this flock is nothing short of extraordinary. And he is the perfect man for the perfect job that he does. He is an Irish immigrant himself. He grew up here in the Bronx. His family were Irish immigrants. He moved back to Ireland, and he received his color in his native Ireland in 2000. He came back to St. Barnabas. His first posting was here in the beautiful Bronx at St. Barnabas Parish. He has worked in many, many parishes, including St. Margaret's of Tortona and up and down the Hudson, doing the job that we know so well. And coming here to St. Barnabas, it was, again, everyone gets a little nervous when a new man takes over the job, correct? And he had big shoes to fill. But certainly, if I could share you a story that's near and dear to my heart. Sadly, the week he took the job, and the week after he took the job, and it was only a name, I remember that guy who took the job, right? You know, my uncle, his mom, who lived here their whole life, he had an episode in his home, and he passed away. Ambulances came, and all I know is that this man, who was on the job just a few days, was at the house. Now, I don't know how he got there. The big man is really doing the job, but he was such a moment of grace and strength and inspiration. And on top of that, he made my beloved aunt a cup of tea as she was dealing with this incredible moment. So that can tell you just a small portion of what this man brings to this community and brings to us. So ladies and gentlemen, Father Brendan Fitzgerald.
Good evening, welcome to the Woodlawn. And we've had a lot of celebrations this month. The whole month has been handed over to celebrating St. Patrick. And definitely the Irish are there, you know, we enjoy our celebrations. But we got to pause for a few moments and think about what we're celebrating. What we're celebrating is the fact that a stranger came to Ireland. This man, St. Patrick, came to Ireland as a stranger. He wasn't one of us. And he brought to us the greatest gift we could have, the gift of faith. And that's what we're celebrating. And then that gift of faith that St. Patrick, the stranger among us, he came to Ireland first of all as a slave, managed to escape, and then was moved with compassion and love to bring us the greatest gift we could have, the gift of faith. Brought it to us, instilled it in us, and then we started going abroad bringing that gift to other people, becoming missionaries. When we celebrate St. Patrick, we celebrate because he is our patron saint of Ireland. We also remember he's the patron saint of Nigeria, because that's one of the places the Irish missionaries went, one of the African countries. And that same gift of faith that Patrick in exile brought to us, we brought to Nigeria. They fell in love with St. Patrick, with the faith, and made him their patron. So our St. Patrick's Day celebrations, yes, we think of Ireland, we wear the green, but by their very nature, they bring people together. By their very nature, they're inclusive. There's an inclusive there. So we gotta remember that, especially with all these people here today. What a great celebration. So many people joined together in the name of St. Patrick. So for the benediction, I decided I wasn't going to use any of my own words. The words I'm using are actually St. Patrick's own words. They call it St. Patrick's breastplate. And this was the armour he put on him every day, the prayer he put on him as he went out to bring the good word to the people. As I arise today, may the strength of God pilot me, the power of God uphold me, the wisdom of God guide me. May the eye of God look before me, the ear of God hear me, the word of God speak for me. May the hand of God protect me, the way of God lie before me, the shield of God defend me, the host of God save me. May Christ shield me today, Christ with me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ in me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ on my right, Christ on my left, Christ when I lie down, Christ when I sit, Christ when I stand, Christ in the heart of everyone who thinks of me, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks of me, Christ in every eye that sees me, Christ in every ear that hears me. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
So, today, as we celebrate Irish culture and heritage, let's begin. I didn't want to talk too much more. As some of you know, my name is Derek Woods. I'm the co-founder of the Riverdale Children's Theatre. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you. As our great Bronx media figured out, I am not McGee Hickey, so thank you very much. She was called away on assignment, and I, of course, am so happy to be standing here today with you all. In my previous life, I was at many of these Irish heritage celebrations with Mr. Diaz and his predecessors, and certainly I've seen for many, many years how important this is, and it's always a little special when your family is from Ireland. This is an amazing time of year for all of us as we celebrate Irish heritage. It wasn't so much like this growing up as well. There was a big parade, but now there's so many parades and so many celebrations throughout the Bronx. Last week was, of course, the Bronx St. Patrick's Day Parade. We're going to have the Great McLean Avenue Yonkers Parade. We have so many events. But really, when you're here in Woodlawn and you get to see, you understand that this magic is not just once a year. It's every day of every year. The culture and the heritage, and especially the music, is such a vital and an important part. But of course, it's also an important part of the Bronx proper. And when we get to celebrate these things and share them with people of all cultures and nationalities, that's what the Bronx is all about. And certainly when today, when I was asked to call, I was just so excited to get here and to be with everyone here in Woodlawn. At this time, though, as we prepare for the rest of our evening, please, I would like to introduce our esteemed Borough President, Mr. Ruben Diaz Jr., and a few words about him, if I may. Certainly he was one of the youngest assemblymen, if not the youngest at the time, to serve in the United States Assembly. He has had a life of service and devotion to the Bronx, and serving as his third consecutive term as Borough President here in the beautiful Bronx. As Borough President, he has led to the implementation of a very robust agenda on economic development, housing, health and wellness, education, and public safety in every corner of the borough. The Bronx has seen over $12.7 billion in development under his and his administration. And this includes more than 20,000 new units of housing built for lower-income families. 110,000 Bronx residents have jobs today, unlike when he first took office many years ago. But what he is, too, is a tireless champion for the Bronx, a tireless champion for everyone. One of his main things, as always was, and today we see it, un solo Bronx. It is one Bronx, and today we celebrate the Irish, but we celebrate our Borough President, Mr. Ruben Diaz Jr.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me just thank Derek for that wonderful introduction, but also for stepping up.
it's not easy to replace McGee Hickey. She was called on assignment, and we really needed someone who can do just as great of a job, someone who is just as proud to be an Irish American, and we could have thought of no one else better than you, Derek. Let's give Derek a strong round of applause. Come on, you can do better than that. To Father Fitzgerald, thank you for that wonderful invocation. Of course, to Amara, let's give Amara, she's young, she's not in practice. And to Michael Foley, how many years now you've been with us? You are a tradition in and of itself. You are a walking legend. We love you. We love your spirit. We love your girlfriend. You don't mind me liking your girlfriend, right? 62 years his girlfriend. Let's give them a strong round of applause. So the Deputy Borough President, Marika Scott McFadden, who's with us here today, let's give her a strong round of applause. And my staff, let's give my staff a strong round of applause for bringing this together. We want to thank and welcome you all for coming out. I just want to recognize some of our public servants who are here. We have George Torres, the District Manager of Community Board 12. We have Joseph McMahon, a State Committee member of the 80th Assembly District. We have Marjorie Velasquez Lynch, the District Leader of the 82nd Assembly District Part 2. We have Ivan Neds, the representative from Assembly Member Jeff Dinowitz's office. And we were just joined by Council Member Andrew Cohen, who will address us today. And Neil McDonough, who's representing the Consulate General Office of Ireland. And I'll bring you up in a bit. But ladies and gentlemen, if you read the biography, and many of you who are here, by the way, how many of you who are here are not of Irish descent? Raise your hand. This is what I love about these events, and I say this all the time. The fact that we can come together as a borough. The fact that while unfortunately we hear of the divisive invective and vitriol that's coming out of Washington, D.C., especially from the White House, that people look at the Bronx as a model of unity. People look at us as a place where we can come together, have a good time, and make a place better, fully understanding that we're proud Bronxites, fully understanding and appreciating that we're proud New Yorkers, fully understanding that we all pledge allegiance to the American flag, but never ever sacrificing, never giving up for 1 inch where we come from, where our ancestors come from, appreciating our diversity. And so when we can come together and when we can celebrate with other communities, what is more beautiful than that? This is why I love my job. This is why I love being the borough president of God's country, the borough of the Bronx. Today, as we are diverse in communities, and by the way, in my family, my nephew is half Puerto Rican, half Irish. His name is William Kiley. And William Kiley makes sure that every year during St. Patrick's Day, the Diaz family eats arroz con cabbage. And today we celebrate the Irish American community, not just here in the Bronx, but as you will see from our honorees throughout the city of New York. When you look at this great city and all that the city has been through and all of the changes and how phenomenal we are, how we are the center of the universe, you will see that part of that history is an important part. Since the 1860s, you've had Irish people coming in from the Emerald Isle, for the most part, the Catholic Irish, coming to parts of the city in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, and in the Bronx. And even though many of those neighborhoods that they settled in were tough neighborhoods, What you got, for the most part, the overwhelming majority were God-fearing, family-oriented, hard-working individuals who were able to work at the docks, were able to work in different industry, in factories. Women, the Irish women. How many Irish women are here? Make some noise. Irish women did their part working in the homes of individuals, raising families, and the Irish men worked up the ladder, starting with blue-collar work. And you're going to hear from our labor leader, one of our honorees, and Mike McGuire. At the time, there weren't too many unions, and there were deplorable conditions, and they still toughed it out in order to hold up their end of the bargain and their responsibility to be able to provide for their families. We see Irish American all around us, whether it's our police commissioner, O'Neill. You see them in our classrooms, in our police department, in hospitals, in the political arena. And so that's what we're here to celebrate. And when you look at the Bronx, when you look at how far we've come, we can't get to the place where we are today without a solid foundation. So let me just read a little bit to you so that if you did not realize, you need to know the importance that the Irish American community means to the Bronx and therefore to the city of New York. The Irish came to the Bronx in the mid-19th century as laborers who constructed the New York and Harlem Railroad, the rail system, the Hudson River Railroad, and, get a load of this, the High Bridge. So the High Bridge, without the High Bridge, you do not get clean water that comes from up north through the Bronx and into what was known as New York City, which is downtown Manhattan. Without clean water, you don't get a robust, vibrant society. You perhaps don't get the New York that we have today. And by the way, they did this system, this aqueduct, with no machinery. It's all based on gravity. Think about the engineering that goes into that. Think about the hard work. And they did it aesthetically in such a beautiful way that they hid all of these tunnels and these waterways under this beautiful High Bridge, which we were able to restore and open up again 2 years ago. If you haven't visited the High Bridge recently, you should go and treat yourself. But they did it in such a way that many of the snooty rich people of downtown Manhattan back then, they will come up after Sunday church. They will come up the waterways, and the boats would dock at the foot of the bridge, and they would walk up those stairs. By the way, those stairs, we're going to start rehabbing them soon. And they will go up into the High Bridge where they would enjoy music and even magicians and other other entertainment up on the, and that was a Sunday afternoon. Get a load of that. And if it were not for the Irish settlers here in the Bronx, we would have never received that. Here in the Woodlawn section of the Bronx, this is traditionally, well, this is supposed to be called Woodlawn Heights. We intimately call it Woodlawn. But when you look at the different infrastructure projects that occurred in the Bronx, this is where, for the most part, and with some Italians as well, this is the part of the Bronx that the Irish community found a home. This is where you flourished. This is where you were able to lay down that solid foundation so that we could be at a place that even when it wasn't so nice to be here in the 1970s and the 80s, we still had that solid foundation so we could build back. And so that is what we're celebrating here today. And that's why I appreciate the fact that you all give yourselves a strong round of applause for celebrating that history. We have Soban Dennehy, the executive director of the Emerald Isle Immigration Center. Shaban, I'm sorry. And of course, Bob Nolan of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, who is the budget director for the Bronx Borough President's Office for so long. So don't get low on energy. Give yourselves a strong round of applause. Come on. What I want to do now is I want us to take a pause and get to know and recognize individuals who have really done their share to make the Bronx, New York City, New York State, and therefore the United States of America a whole lot better. And we're going to do this for those of you who have been coming out to some of my Heritage Month celebration as of late. We don't want to do this whole podium style. What we're going to do interview style. We're going to bring up the honorees, and we're going to tell you a little bit about them, and we're going to interview them, okay? Okay? Okay. So with that said, our first honoree is Anne-Marie Ancelone. Step right up, Anne-Marie. I don't know, you guys are low in energy. Was there some Irish coffee? There was some Irish coffee going around? I found out about Irish coffee, and I'm about to cheat on Bustelo. Derek Woods, would you join us, please?
I will.
So, ladies and gentlemen, our first honoree, Anne-Marie. Now, she is a native New Yorker. She's a resident of Astoria, Queens. Anne-Marie received a BBA management from Iona College. She has a rich history of public service, especially working with elected officials and in the political arena.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, and I appreciate you doing this just for me.
We appreciate the fact that you're here. Anne-Marie is the Chief of Staff to Congressman Joseph Crowley, who also represents the Bronx and Queens. I love Joe Crowley, but forget Joe Crowley for me. Because in politics, we see that women are the majority voters. Women are the ones who go out there and collect petitions. Women are the ones who organize. Women are the reason why so many men have been so successful in politics. And so, first of all, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Astoria. I was the middle child of Peter and Mary Ann Kelly. My dad grew up in the Bronx. He met my mother in Rockaway and became a Queens boy. So I've lived in Astoria my entire life.
So where in what part of the Bronx?
My dad grew up on Fordham Road and...
Fordham Road, anybody from Fordham Road?
Yeah.
So you have Bronx roots?
I do.
All right. How did you get involved in politics?
My mother was a Democratic district leader with Assemblyman Dennis Butler, and they were co-leaders for 30 years. And so my mother was politically active, and in my house, whatever my parents said, that's what you did. So when it came time to campaign or hand out palm cards, that's what we did.
Before I turn it over to Derek, full disclosure here, I served in the New York State Assembly with Dennis Butler when I first got up there. Great public servant. But even before that, I don't know how many of you know this, I used to be a messenger at the New York City Council over 25 years ago. And it was there that I worked and delivered her mom, Mary Ann Kelly's mail. And always sweet and encouraging. And last Saturday, I got a chance to be out in Queens at the Queens Democratic County Women's Luncheon, and I was able to see your mom, and I gave her a hug and a kiss, and she's beautiful.
Yes.
The one thing I love about Borough President is, again, this new format, which is definitely unique, and it brings me back to my journalism days. I was very well known for my hard-hitting interviews, so I'll start off with the tough ones. How often have you heard Joe Crowley sing this week?
3 times, including last evening.
For those of you who don't know, he's a very, very well-known singer, besides being an incredible public servant. But Seriously, your office and Joe Crowley's office, obviously a voice for the Irish American community. What have you identified as the most important things to neighborhoods similar to this here in Queens and New York, and bringing that message to Washington?
Well, this week we were lucky enough to be at a local school, the Renaissance School, which is a charter school very close to our area, that is a union school, so that's why everybody loves them. A great school, really great kids, and we got to listen to them talk about gun violence. So I think if ever there's going to be a time for us to make a change, it will be now, because the young people are involved. And they asked very important questions. They talked about the inability of Congress to do anything. I mean, I remember when I've worked with the congressman for 19 years, and when he was first in Congress, there was an assault weapon ban, and now that's gone away, and we can't really seem to understand why they can't get that back again. So it's important. I think the Irish community loves family and a good time and friends, and I think that's universal everywhere, in every neighborhood and in every nationality. I think most people want to help folks and do the best they can to pull everyone along.
So, I'm Puerto Rican. My parents are from Puerto Rico. I remember at a very young age, even though Spanish and obviously you had the Puerto Rican culture around the house, to a degree, I didn't really embrace my Puerto Rican pride. What do I mean by that? You know, I refrained from speaking Spanish. You know, I didn't listen to salsa music, so on and so forth. Did you grow up that way? If not, you know, talk to us about the very early stages of your Irish pride.
So I took Irish step dancing. I was not really very good at it. So I took that for about 3 or 4 years, and then when it became clear that that was not going to be something I flourished at, my mother gave me a pass that I didn't have to do that. But we always marched in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. My father was always a member of, you know, the Holy Name Society, which I went to Catholic grammar school, and, you know, my neighborhood was predominantly Irish and Italian, so there was always an Irish St. Patrick's event somewhere.
And never any problems there.
Never any problems. My dad listened to Irish music. My mom made Irish soda bread, so that was part of us growing up all the time. But I do think that in my parents' generation, in addition to being proud they were Irish, they were proud to be Americans too. So I think that's a little bit different.
Talk to us about the current state of politics now, and tell the audience a little bit about she wants to be modest. The Queens County organization is a very powerful organization. Thank God that they work closely with the Bronx County Democratic Organization. And when you look at how much Joseph Crowley has grown in Congress, where folks are already speaking of him being the next speaker once the House turns, and we're hoping that happens. You can't get there without having a strong individual that you can rely on. She is the person that Joe Crowley relies on. So, yeah. When you look at the diversity in Queens, when you look at the diversity in the Bronx, the district touches both, and all of the things that you see coming out of DC, governmentally and politically, talk to us a little bit about what your role is, talk to them about how you see things, and whether or not you're optimistic moving forward.
Well, I think what's happened, Congress has lost the ability to be civil. I think that you can disagree on something, but most people would disagree and then try and be civil. We can agree to disagree. They've lost that. There's total partisanship now, and I think nobody wants to do anything to help anybody else. And the congressman always tells me that that wasn't always the case back in the day. You would go out to dinner, you'd meet somebody, you'd sit down with somebody on the other side of the aisle. I mean, the congressman has friends on the other side. He always says that when he got married, there were, I don't know, 4 or 5 people in his bridal party that were Republicans, because that's how he was raised, to always try and work with people. I think the president is making matters even worse. He's just, I don't even know how to describe him nicely. And I think part of the problem is people are not, they just worry about themselves now. There's no ability to have empathy for others and to see how other people live. I think the immigrant, you know, my grandparents were immigrants, right? So when they came here because their life was not so great where they came from, right? So they came here to make a better life for themselves, and I think that's what everybody who comes to this country does. And it's not like you want people who come here aren't coming here. They're leaving their family behind. That's a big part of most people's culture. So I'm optimistic with the midterms. I mean, hopefully we had a win last night in Pennsylvania, which I think hopefully will turn things around. And I'm optimistic that we can find our way through this. That's what I'm optimistic about.
You know, we look at the Irish as a beautiful island, and we know Puerto Rico is the beautiful island. In the Irish culture, when someone needs help, you come to places like the Rambling House, you have a benefit, you find ways to help your neighbor. That hasn't been the case necessarily. The aid getting to Puerto Rico has been difficult at times and often forgotten. How is everyone working to make that work?
Well, we have seen in Queens, there are agencies that have banded together to try and help Puerto Rico. There's groups that have done it. The government has not done what it should have done. I don't know why that's happening. It's inconceivable to me that people don't see why they want to help other people. I think moving forward, we hope that we have a good election cycle, and I think that may turn the tide on things. I don't think it's good when one party controls every branch of government.
I agree. Well, unless the party's a Democratic.
That is true. That is true.
Let me just say that Crowley and the New York City delegation have been phenomenal in helping my family and the 3.5 million Americans who live in Puerto Rico. So you do politics, and it's a grind,
Yeah.
and you're tough, and it's not easy. Tell us a little something about yourself that people in Queens and in the Bronx who see you in political circles don't know about you. Something that you like doing, a hobby or something.
Well, I like to go to happy hour. I do not drink beer. I have never drank beer. I don't like it at all.
What do you drink?
Wine.
Okay.
And a margarita. You know, I just like to relax when I'm on vacation. I enjoy traveling. And I actually have loved my job because I've gotten to meet a lot of people that I would never have met as a girl from Astoria who grew up relatively, you know, secluded. I get to meet amazing people that I would never have the opportunity to meet. I get to travel, I get to go places. I got to meet you, got to get to know you, and it's great.
So, look, I appreciate the fact, I know that you don't like to be recognized, but I think it's important. I know your family, you come from a strong pedigree of wonderful New Yorkers, strong, you know, Irish pride, people who are for many, many years, from your mom to you, I met your children. You're really doing a great job at doing the best that you can to help turn the city around. And people in your position quite often go unrecognized, and it's a thankless job. So please accept this honor tonight as a way for us to say, we see you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we know that it's not always, you know, glamorous to do the things that you do, but at least for today, we really we want you to know that your work is appreciated. So with that, with that, I don't need the citation of merit.
Thank you so much.
Photographers will get you if you don't stand up. Mr. President. Photographers will come and trample.
Come on, let's give her a strong round of applause. Anne Marie, Han Salome. Our next honoree is Mike McGuire. Mike, come on down. So Mike McGuire is a 38-year member of the Laborers International Union of North America.
Yes.
How many union members here? Any union members? Guys, come on. You guys gotta clap here. Time out. Time out. What this is really about is me auditioning so that once my political life is over, I can have my own talk show. Now, whenever I watch Wendy Williams or something, the studio audience, everybody screams and claps. You guys are not cooperating today. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike McGuire. Come on, guys. So you hold the title of political director of the Mason Tenders, District Council of Greater New York and Long Island. It's an umbrella organization of 5 local unions of the Laborers International Union of North America. These local unions represent 15,000 men and women employed as construction laborers, mason tenders, plasterers, tenders, demolition workers. They work with asbestos, lead and hazardous waste laborers, very dangerous, recycling plants, workers, and Catholic high school teachers. You got to explain that one.
Wow.
But ladies and gentlemen, Mike, thank you for being with us here today. How are you feeling? Tell us, go in a little deeper of sort of your background and how do you get involved in the labor movement, and speak to us a little bit about your ascendancy to the heights that you've reached now.
All right. Well, this is kind of an interesting story, but it starts very much like a lot of these stories. My dad was a member of the Laborers Union. My mother, a member of the Nurses Union. My mother's actually the head nurse in the emergency room at Bronx, Lebanon Concourse Division, midnight to 8 a.m. shift, all through the late 60s, 70s, into the 80s, during part of the roughest time. But my dad, as a member of the Laborers Union, when I graduated from Mount St. Michael High School, paid.
So you're a Bronx boy. I can't clap for Mount. It's in the Bronx. My son is Cardinal Hayes.
You got two mountains here at the table. Sorry, you got two mounties at the table right now. So you're a little
And chef too, and the deputy son as well. I'm outnumbered. Any Hayesman here? I'm not, but my son, yeah.
But my dad paid my initiation fee into the union as a high school graduation present, and then I was able to work on construction sites during spring break and summer break, so I didn't have to have an after-school job. And when I graduated, there weren't a lot of jobs in my field, so I went back to work for a contractor I'd worked for the year before. And I stayed in that position in the union for 16 years, just working on various construction sites. And then, this is a much longer story than we have time for here, but my union at the time, the Mason Tenders District Council, it was quoted in a national publication as the Mason Tenders District Council may be the most corrupt labor organization of the United States of America at the time. That was in 1995, 96. And with the help of the Department of Justice, I was brought in with a bunch of other rank and file members to take control of the union back from organized crime. And then we have, I worked for the local for a couple of years, and then we created our political action committee. I've been the political director ever since.
So before we get a little bit more into that, you're a Bronx boy. What
Yes.
area of the Bronx? And speak to us a little bit about growing up in the Bronx.
Well, you talk about neighborhoods, but when we were kids, we didn't talk neighborhoods, we talked parishes, right? And what parish were you from? So it was Christ the King when I was a little kid, and then OLR, OLA, St. Brendan's, all over. But no, I grew up in High Ridge until about 10 or 11 years old. Then moved, and I guess we got a thing for bridges. High Bridge, Kingsbridge, Bainbridge. They kind of went that
We like to build bridges, not walls.
Yes, exactly. But it was interesting growing. When I was a little kid, High Bridge was an Irish neighborhood. And that's all you kind of knew, right? You hung around on your block with your friends, and they were all Irish American kids, and most of I'm first generation. Both my parents were born in Ireland, and most of the other kids on the block were too. And so your whole world was like this Irish world. All your friends were Irish or Irish American. On Sundays you'd be at Gaelic Park. On some Saturday nights, if there was no babysitter, we'd get dragged to the dances, the Irish dances, and everything else. So, to me, when I was a little kid, the Bronx was, there was the 33rd county. It was just an extension of Ireland.
At this time, we need the 3 ceremonial pints of Guinness up at the table. Mike, tell me your favorite growing up in an Irish neighborhood. What comes to mind immediately when someone talk about neighborhoods and thoughts and?
Well, it's a really interesting thing because, like I say, it was purely Irish, right? So, what I know now that I think about it, which seemed very normal at the time, was we would often get shipped off to Ireland for the summer. We'd be out of school for a few days. Boom, you're on a plane. You're over there for the entire summer, and then you come back a few days before school ends. And I remember being on flights when we were 8, 9, 10 years old, unaccompanied minors, and we knew half the kids on the plane because it was the same thing. They were all getting sent back. And then
extended vacation for the parents.
Yeah, exactly. And then another thing I think that'll resonate with some people in the room is when you came back with a suitcase full of Irish sausages for everybody in the neighborhood. This one got 2 pounds and that one got 2 pounds, and you shared it out to everybody.
The flake and the crunchies.
That's right.
Well, what are some of the games you guys played in the Bronx back then?
Oh, we played all the regular games. Like Rigolevio and Skelly and Johnny on the Pony.
I had the push-up tops, the Skellies in the middle of the street.
Oh, see, the best ones were the snap caps off the bottom of the school desks.
I would never do that to school furniture. Going back to the union.
Yeah.
Explain to everyone here why it's important to have organized labor as part. If once upon a time, as you said, the Tender Basins Union was one of the most corrupt, then why not just throw it all out? Why not just get rid of it because of its corruption? Explain to everybody why it is still important to have organized labor in construction sites.
Well, I think it's, this is a great question because people say all the time, we don't need unions anymore. Unions are obsolete. There's paid family leave, there's vacation time, and everything else. And the way I push back on that is I tell them a stat that I was just doing some research because I spoke up at the Somos conference this weekend. In 2016, 71 construction workers were killed on construction sites in New York State. 95.
Say that again.
71 construction workers were killed at work in 2016. That's the last year we have the full numbers for. We don't have the 2017 number yet. 95% of those fatalities were on non-union construction sites. So I don't tell anybody can tell me unions are obsolete and unions aren't needed anymore when 19 out of every 20 people being killed on a construction site is on a non-union site. Nothing that illustrates it better. And then to tie it into the whole Bronx thing, and in those days it was, the guys I grew up with, right? Not Highbridge, Kingsbridge, so I'm a teenager at this point. About a third went to college, about a third went into the trades, and about a third went on the job, either became cops or firefighters. It was that kind of socioeconomic neighborhood. And the Bronx, to me, has always sort of been that, right? The Bronx is, at that point it was Irish. It's wave after wave of immigrants. It doesn't make a difference what country they come from, right? Each wave comes here, and to me the Bronx is an incubator for the American dream. You come to the Bronx, you get settled, you find work. Hopefully you find some union work because, the non-union work, in every profession, not just construction, but every profession. And people come here and this is the jumping off point for the American dream for so many people. And that's what I've always thought this borough was about.
Is the fastest way out of poverty is to have a union job, number one. And number two, as a Latino, I want to thank you because, correct me if I'm wrong, a significant, if not the majority of those deaths that you refer to are Latinos who are immigrants who get taken advantage of and are not in union labor, right?
Yep.
So when you're out there fighting, whether they're unionized or not, you're out there fighting for safety in construction sites, and that benefits the Latino laborers.
I actually worked out the numbers for this speech I gave at Somos this weekend, and doing the math, 3.4% of the Latinos killed on construction sites are killed on union sites. 96.6% of the Latinos killed on construction sites are killed on non-union sites, and about 80% of the fatalities overall are Latinos or other immigrants. So it's open season. I mean, it's horrible.
Mike, you've been a champion for Local 79 for quite some time. When you're, again, as we talk about formalized training, what do you want members of Local 79 to represent? When that name is put out there, what have you endeavored to make your members the most important things you want them to know?
Well, first of all, we want them to be safe on the sites, right? Construction sites are dangerous. You know, unionized workers get killed too. It's a very dangerous industry. It's the most dangerous major industry in the country. But also, you know, it's the skill set that we learn, you know, and to be able to do the job well, do it fast. Our apprenticeship program, our apprentices, and we have more apprentices in the Mason Center's training fund than every other construction craft labor apprentice program in the state combined, union and non-union alike. We have more in our shop. We take in about 100 new apprentices every 8 months at the Mason Center, and they undergo 4,315 hours of training to go from being a starting apprentice to a journey person. And when they're done with that 4,300 hours of training, they know how to do the job right, they know how to do it fast, and they know how to do it safely, so they get home safe and sound at the end of the night to their families.
Between you and I,
Yeah.
you're a big Irish man from the Bronx. You have to deal with contracts and negotiating. Tell me something about you that I don't know. Something that has nothing to do with you being a labor leader, something that you like to do for fun, something that I would never in my I like to watch Wendy Williams.
I can't admit to that, but I guess that I'm something of a reader, and I don't ever dispose of books.
Me neither.
Yeah, so my parents, when they came from Ireland, books were a rare commodity, right? Because everybody was poor, and so I was always drilled into me, you don't get rid of books. So I have pretty much every book I've ever read. I have an old house up in the Catskills, and I tell people I bought that house from my books. I'm
waiting for my youngest to graduate from college so I can take his room and convert it to a library.
Well, that's right. I built the library in the place upstate, but between the place upstate and my apartment here in the city, I probably have between 2,500 and 3,000 books.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so since we're all in on Ruben's future job, we're going to go for the Irish Heritage Lightning Round. Okay?
Nice.
Are you ready? Okay. What county is your people from?
Mom's side Kerry, dad's side Wallingford.
All right. Yeah, they can do that. Favorite Irish song?
Favorite Irish song? Well, I tend to go for the rebel songs, but you gotta, you know, about you black and tans.
All right, very good. And favorite Irish performer and or singer or story? You have to give us one.
That's interesting. Well, I've become personal friends with a wonderful singer, a woman named Kathy McGuire, who you may know.
Very well.
So she's, you know, now that we're buddies, I say she's my favorite performer.
One of the originals from Cherish the Ladies, yes, and a proud Bronx girl.
Michael, you and all of the men and women of your union and other unions have been tremendously helpful to so many of us in government and in politics. We quite often need to be held accountable, always held accountable, and you do a good job at that. You are forceful when you need to be. You advocate to get people out of poverty and get benefit and have benefits. You guys have been there for Puerto Rico. You're there for undocumented Latinos and members of other communities. And again, because of the hustle and bustle of being a labor leader, of negotiating contracts. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy to negotiate these contracts. And you know, you always find, I'm sure that you find yourself in a hostile environment all the time. we wanted to at least take this time to say that we appreciate everything that you do. That you're a Bronx boy of Irish descent who's done good. And we want to recognize you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, our second honoree, Mike McGuire.
Let's give it up for Mike McGuire.
Okay. We are almost done. We have our third and final honoree, Monsignor Kevin Sullivan. You guys really better applause because he has a very good friend on his side. So Monsignor Sullivan is the Executive Director of Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of New York since 2001. His first major task was coordinating the human services response to the families and victims of 9/11, the terrorist attack here in New York and in the United States. He has been currently under the leadership of the Board of Trustees. Monsignor Sullivan is directing Catholic Charities Centennial 2017 initiatives, including a 5-year, $100 million fundraising campaign. I want to hear something more about that. We have been able to work together. We've been able to feed the hungry together. We've been able to build housing for those that need it in an affordable way, for the poor families. You name it, you guys have been there for Puerto Rico as well. You've been there for other disaster relief efforts for other countries, whether it's the Dominican Republic or Haiti, Mexico, so on and so forth. You know, when I say that the Bronx is God's country, people chuckle at that, but I always say that because here in the Bronx, we really see a lot of folks doing God's work. You, Monsignor Sullivan, and Catholic Charity exemplify that. And so that's why you're here today. Good evening, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Thank
Let's
you.
welcome Monsignor Sullivan. So, talk to us about the Catholic Charities, and when we read about this $100 million fundraising campaign, what is that going toward?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Ruben. I'm here to ask you for your pledge to that campaign. I'll take that as a yes, and thank you so much.
I see that little red light's on, so.
No promises.
So really, Ruben, we're so very proud at Catholic Charities, and Kathy Cudahy, for whom you also delivered mail, is one of our trustees, and Sister Christine Hennessy, who works right up the block at one of the Irish centers here. And we're so proud of our work with government, and you, quite frankly, and I'm not saying this just because you're here, are one of our proudest public servants. And so we're proud of that. But I do think that sometimes we're a little bit too reliant on government. And we have to count on the goodwill of so many people to complement the funding that government does. The people who say, well, private sector can do it all. No, that's nonsense. Government's got to do a big part. But the private sector and philanthropy has to do its part too. And the reality is, around this town, you can't find a major fundraising campaign that isn't led by Irish American business people. Very generous. And so that's what we're at.
Now, Monsignor, you were born in the Bronx?
I was born in the Bronx.
Did you live in the Bronx for
So I'll tell you the deal.
Okay.
So
and where in the Bronx?
Bainbridge and Gun Hill.
Okay.
St. Brendan's boy.
Yep, and was born in Parkchester in the hospitals that's now closed, Westchester Square. Yeah, what's that called? So, but then, and when they always say, well, which county were you from? And I say, well, my parents were from the best county in the world. They were born in County Bronx.
Yeah.
So many years ago. So for the first part of my life, I sat on the fire escape on the we'll walk up on Gun Hill and watch my dad get off the Jerome Avenue subway at Gun Hill Road and walk home from work. And then we kind of cheated a little bit, but we only moved about 2 miles. And we moved just on the other side of here to Yonkers. So I grew up for early part, and then we moved to Yonkers. And then probably the best thing that ever happened to me, and I went to Cathedral Prep in Manhattan for high school and commuted. And for 4 years took the #1 train from Van Cortlandt Park to 86th Street. And because we had such a baby gym, we couldn't even practice in our baby gym on West End Avenue. We then had to take the 2 train from there to 149th Street, and they let us play in that big school of Cardinal Hayes. Because that was where, but I'll tell you something a little bit serious. When I was doing that, because I'm old and decrepit, that was seriously at a time when we thought that New York could go the way of Detroit. Now, I'm not running for mayor of Detroit, so I can say that about Detroit. And when you took the subways in those days, it was a little bit dicey. But what was good about it when you did it, it was then your place. So the Bronx was your place. You owned it for the rest of your life, and as demographics changed and things like that, it was your neighborhood. And so you became a little bit less fearful, and you saw more opportunities and possibilities than all of the fears that were there.
Mr. Borough President, I don't know if you're aware of, but you are actually in the largest Irish Catholic parish outside of Ireland, which many people don't realize that. And certainly when you look at today's honorees, it's amazing. They're so well chosen for some of the pillars of this community, and that strong public service, unions, and obviously the clergy, and what St. Barnabas represents here. Catholic Charities has always had that word alone in any Irish household growing up. You know they were a place to go for help. What do you identify as some of the main causes that you see in the tri-state area that Catholic Charity is helping families like families here in Woodlawn?
So let me begin by saying the issue for us in the New York area is always immigration. And the interesting thing is that my predecessor was very, very involved in working on what now has become controversial, the diversity visas in the late 80s, because of the way they redid the thing in 1986, there was not much Irish immigration there, and the diversity visas, and again, one of those ironies, was to enable countries that were underrepresented, which at that time was Ireland, to have a chance to get in. Now the irony of it is, the first year when all the Irish were excited about submitting their things for the lotteries, 90% of them went to the people from Bangladesh. Bangladesh got more in those early years than Irish. But anyway, so immigration is always some of the things that are critical, and which is why Sister Christine Hennessy is here, because she's working with the Irish immigrants who are here in this part of the box. So immigration is absolutely critical for us in New York. We don't have a city without immigration.
And I'd be remiss in saying that we have 2 amazing organizations here in our midst dealing with immigration, the Ashling Irish Center and the Emerald Immigration Center in Triple.
Shout out to Mr. Lombard. You know about Mr. Lombard. I have to get the mail for him too. How do I get around this without?
Just ask it.
So, you
Hold on, are the drinks coming yet, or did I see something?
Mr. 45 at 1600 Pennsylvania is pretty despicable, especially when he refers to the immigrant population here in the United States. Many of his followers are what we have coined the alt-right, and many of them, profess to be men and women of God, of the church.
Right.
And so when you speak of Catholic Charities and the fact that among all of the different things, the myriad different services that you provide, top on that list is caring for the immigrant.
Right.
What would you say to those individuals who vilify the immigrant population and then on Sundays want to wave their Bibles?
You are wrong. You don't have a big debate. Now again, my belief is you don't have to shout. You don't have to use the same type of despicable language, but you have to be very clear. That's not who we are, and that's not what reality is. And we just got to say it over and over again, clearly and clearly, without stooping to the level of lack of reality that's there. And there's no silver bullet. We just got to do it day in and day out, and to just continue to hold by our values. Now, my own opinion, okay. It was not a military coup by which we got this president. Now, and, okay, everybody's going to talk about the popular vote and who won that, okay. But the reality is, for 200 years, we've had an electoral college, and there were enough people in this country who bought that type of rhetoric. So I think we make a very bad mistake if we say the only issue is some of the rhetoric and volatility that's coming out of the White House. We don't look into our own hearts and the hearts of our neighbors and figure out how we up the level of civic engagement of everyone.
We have to absolutely find a way to speak to each other again.
Right.
Regardless, Democrat, Republican, anything.
Can I tell you a very hopeful story? I was at a meeting today that the borough president of that inferior borough, Manhattan, had a meeting, who quite frankly is one of the classiest people in, isn't she?
Gail Brewer is amazing.
Just amazing.
Love Gail Brewer.
Yeah. But she had a meeting about closing of Rikers, okay? And sitting almost next to each other was the district attorney of Manhattan, Cy Vance, and a woman whose name I don't remember, but the head of the Legal Aid Society, who I am sure are in court every day fighting each other, whatever. Well, you should have heard the civil conversation that Cy Vance had with this person about how, well, we share this perspective, we don't share that perspective. That's what we got to do, even when we disagree with each other. We have to be, and even if we have to swallow a little crow to say, I can't stand that guy, I can't stand him. But the goal is to get everybody together to create a better society.
That's right.
Bronx Irish boy. How do you turn to priesthood?
Well, okay, I'll tell you one thing. Most people know the story of St. Paul. He's riding down the road to kill Christians. God knocks him off his horse and says, change your ways. Not me. I don't know. I mean, just one day, my mom says to me, you're not thinking of being a priest? And I said, I don't know, it might not be such a bad idea. That was literally what I said. I took the test to go to the college seminary, which I said, Cathedral, which is not sleepaway, it's like a regular high school. And gradually, kind of over the years, they didn't throw me out and I didn't leave. And here I am, 42 years later, still a priest. So, so you kind of are open to, but let me say one thing just a little bit seriously. But every single person in this room has to figure out how they're going to answer God's call. And let me say this, people say, well, priests sacrifice so much, but I have never ever changed a diaper at 3 o'clock in the morning. And
Lucky you.
You better. But so it's been great, and I get to meet wonderful people in different places.
With our Pope, with messages, people want to find ways to be part of their faith, and it seems to be changing. From your perspective, the Catholic faith, as we look to head into this new century, how do you feel that the message is?
I'm not terribly sanguine, and here's why I'm not sanguine. Because people talk about a spirituality and they talk about that, and there's some good stuff. But unfortunately, in our age, one of the things that I think we need to revitalize is the notion of both discipline and sacrifice. Everybody wants to be spiritual if it doesn't cost them anything. And pardon me, you don't get to Easter Sunday unless you go through the cross. And so this is an age which likes instant gratification. God forbid you don't respond to a text in 7 seconds. So we got to figure out how we balance.
I'm going to tell my wife that you said it's okay for me not to respond.
Yeah, and if you want to come home with me and not stay with her, you go right away.
Look, in the last 8.5 years, one of the highlights of being the borough president, and one of my days, was when the Pope came to New York City. And the Pope was in East Harlem,
Right.
and it was Catholic Charities who hosted.
Yep.
And because of you, you gave me, I was with Marcos Crespo, our Bronx Democratic County Chairman, you gave me the opportunity to be able to shake the Pope's hand. I didn't get to speak to him like Marcos did, but that was pretty cool. And so on a personal note, I mean, how often does anyone get to shake the Pope's hand? I want to thank you for that. Look, my father, who many of you know, Reverend Diaz, we're not Catholic. My wife and my children were raised Catholic. My wife is Catholic, my family, we're Pentecostal. But my father always taught my brother, sister, and I that you cannot be a good Christian. No offense to anybody else who's not a Christian here. You can't be a good Christian without being a good citizen. And the reason why you're here today is because I think you epitomize, I know that you epitomize. I want to highlight the fact that you symbolize that equilibrium, that balance, that being a good Christian, to say that you believe in Christ, to say that you believe in God, is more than just worshiping in the four walls of the church. It's about going out there and doing God's work in the community and bringing people along and providing housing and providing food and clothing to those that need it. And for that, Monsignor Sullivan, that's why you're being recognized today.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Monsignor Sullivan.
Can I just take one final moment?
Hold on a second. Give us
Because
2 minutes. Give us 2 minutes.
I do have a present for the borough president and a little bit of reminder, since we're recalling Irish heritage. And this has been a great borough president. There was a borough president while the last one, I believe, who had an Irish surname, Jimmy Lyons. Served for 28 years, I believe. Okay. And he brought home 16 World Series.
Oh, that's too much. I have one.
I know.
I have one, 2009.
Your first year, it's been downhill since then. Do better. Don't tell Anne-Marie that. She's a Met fan. Very quickly, I just want to bring up, representing the Consul General's office, we have with us Neil McDonough. Would you please come up, Mr. McDonough, representing, please accept this proclamation on my behalf, on behalf of 1.4 million Bronxites. Please let everyone know in Ireland that the diaspora over here is strong, that the Bronx is on solid footing and on solid ground and a solid foundation, thanks to the contribution of all of your
Irish American brethren and sisters. So with that said, let's give him a couple of minutes here.
I'm delighted to be here today. It's an absolute pleasure, and it's beautiful to see the strong community here in the Bronx, so it's an absolute pleasure. So I'd just like to thank the Borough President for the invitation to come along here to the Bronx today. I want to say a simple but heartfelt thank you on behalf of the Consul General Kieran Madden for the opportunity to meet so many great people. The community here is, I grew up in West Clare myself, a Munster man like Michael here, and it's obvious that there's a strong community alive and well in the Bronx today. It brings a tear to my eye to come here and see it. It's beautiful. I want to thank the Borough President for the support and he and his office give the Irish community and Irish organisations, including our own partners at the Emerald Isle Immigration Centre, the Ashleen Irish Community Centre, and of course the GA in Gaelic Park. You've all dedicated your time and energy to promoting Irish heritage and looking after people and looking after the community here in the Bronx. I know that Irish people contribute at every level in the Bronx, whether that's the cultural sphere, business, the labour movement and political life. So I want to pay tribute to the three honorees who each in their own way contributed to civic and community life in the Bronx. So a round of applause again for the three honorees.
North of Manhattan and west of the Sound, that's where you'll find me hanging around. You can keep Chelsea and Sutton and the Great White Way. The Bronx is where I wanna stay. From Fordham Road to City Isle, the folks all greet you with a smile, strolling up the concourse on a summer's day. We'll tell you why I'll never stray. 4th of July, out at Orchard Beach, neath the summer sky of blue. Sunday afternoon, going through the zoo. And don't forget, we've got the Yankees too. So now you know never roam far from the place that I call home. You'll never find a better place to be. Yes, the Bronx is alright with me. BRONX, the Bronx alright with me.
From the north to the south to the west to the east, we are expanding our services and upgrading technology at Lehman College. And now, Bronxites have an innovative media production facility in the East Bronx at Mercy College in the Hutch Metro Center. The windows on the East Bronx studio, a state-of-the-art control room, media labs for production and training, and other media-capable spaces. Training, workforce development, leading-edge technology, and programs that help you share your ideas, your voice, on your channels, locally and globally. Build media and technology skills at BronxNet and build your dreams.